Give the librarian the basic rental gear. She probably thinks safety mode is permanently on. The laughter echoed through the equipment room. She didn't smile back. Just accepted the standard paintball marker, checked the hopper once, and walked toward the simulation arena. 23 minutes later, the entire Red Team SWAT simulation lay in ruins. Every tactical operator eliminated by a woman they'd never seen fire a shot before. The scoreboard flashed. Blue Team, 1 player remaining. Red Team, 0 players remaining. Mission accomplished. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The Tactical Edge Training Complex in Phoenix, Arizona, was not your average paintball facility. Spread across 40 acres of industrial warehouses and outdoor tactical courses, it served as the premier training ground for law enforcement agencies, military contractors, and elite security firms throughout the Southwest. The facility's crown jewel was the Advanced Urban Warfare Simulator, multi-story concrete maze designed to replicate the most challenging urban combat scenarios faced by modern tactical teams. On this particular Saturday morning in late October, the facility was hosting its quarterly Civilian Challenge Weekend, an invitation-only event where highly trained military veterans, off-duty police officers, and competitive tactical shooters could test their skills against the same scenarios used to train elite law enforcement units. The entry fee was steep at $500 per person, ensuring only serious participants with genuine tactical backgrounds would attend. The parking lot told the story of who belonged here. Lifted pickup trucks with military unit stickers, Tactical Gear Company sponsorship decals, and license plates reading Operator and Molin Lobby dominated the asphalt. These weren't weekend warriors playing dress up. These were professionals who lived and breathed tactical operations. Inside the main briefing room, the atmosphere crackled with competitive testosterone and professional rivalry. Jake Morrison, a former Navy SEAL with 2 Afghanistan deployments, adjusted his custom plate carrier loaded with magazine pouches, tactical radios, and precision optics worth more than most people's monthly salary. His team consisted of fellow veterans Derek "Bull" Patterson, ex-Army Ranger with urban warfare specialization; Carlos Mendez, former Marine Force Recon with advanced marksmanship instructor credentials; and Lieutenant Mike Thompson, active-duty SWAT team leader from the Phoenix Police Department. The Red Team had arrived 3 hours early to conduct equipment checks, review tactical protocols, and study the facility blueprints with the intensity of an actual military operation. Their gear represented the pinnacle of tactical equipment: night vision-compatible helmets, military-grade communication systems, modified paintball markers designed to replicate their service weapons' weight and feel, and enough tactical accessories to outfit a small Army unit. They weren't alone in their preparation. Team Alpha consisted of former Delta Force operators now working private security contracts. Team Bravo brought together FBI hostage rescue team veterans with decades of combined tactical experience. Team Charlie featured Marine Raiders who'd recently returned from classified operations overseas. The competition roster read like a directory of America's most elite tactical professionals. Then, Emily Carter walked in. She wore simple jeans, a plain gray sweater, and comfortable walking shoes. Her only equipment was a small backpack containing a water bottle and what appeared to be a paperback novel. At 34, she stood about 5'6" with shoulder-length brown hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Nothing about her appearance suggested tactical training, military experience, or even recreational interest in combat sports. The registration desk volunteers exchanged confused glances as she approached. "Ma'am, are you here for the spectator tour?" asked Jennifer Walsh, the facility coordinator. "The Civilian Challenge participants check in over there." She pointed toward the equipment area where teams of hardened operators were conducting final Gear inspections. Emily showed her registration confirmation on her phone. Emily Carter, Blue Team, single-player entry. Jennifer's confusion deepened. I'm sorry, but the civilian challenge requires tactical experience verification. Military service record, law enforcement credentials, or documented competitive tactical shooting background. We don't seem to have any qualifying documentation for you in our system. Emily pulled out a folded letter from her backpack. I was personally invited by Colonel Robert Hayes, your facility director. He said my registration fee was waived and qualification requirements were satisfied. The mention of Colonel Hayes, a decorated Special Forces veteran who'd established the facility's reputation for uncompromising professional standards, immediately changed Jennifer's demeanor. Hayes never made exceptions to qualification requirements, never waived fees, and certainly never issued personal invitations to unknown civilians. Let me verify this with the Colonel, Jennifer said, reaching for her radio. No need, came a voice from behind them. Colonel Hayes himself approached, his weathered face showing recognition as he spotted Emily. Miss Carter, glad you could make it. Your equipment is waiting in Bay 12. Jake Morrison had been listening to the exchange with growing amusement. As Emily walked toward the equipment area, he nudged his teammates. Looks like the Colonel's got a soft spot for lost tourists. This should be entertaining. The equipment. Bay buzzed with activity as teams made final preparations. Emily's assigned station stood in stark contrast to the surrounding tactical arsenals. While other participants adjusted advanced optics and tested electronic communication systems, her equipment consisted of basic rental gear, a standard Tipman, a 5 paintball marker, basic mechanical hopper, standard protective mask, and a simple harness with minimal paint pod capacity. Carlos Mendez approached her station with barely concealed amusement. First time playing paintball? He asked, watching as Emily examined the basic marker with obvious unfamiliarity. Something like that, Emily replied quietly, still studying the equipment controls. Well, don't worry about it, Carlos continued with condescending reassurance. These civilian challenge scenarios can be pretty intense, but I'm sure you'll have fun watching how real tactical operations work. Just try to stay out of the way once the shooting starts. Derek Patterson joined the conversation, his tone mixing false concern with obvious entertainment. Ma'am, are you sure you're in the right place? The simulation we're running today is based on actual hostage rescue scenarios. It can get pretty realistic, pretty fast. Lots of noise, movement, stress. Maybe you'd be more comfortable in one of the beginner recreational games? Emily nodded politely. I appreciate the concern, but I'll be fine. Lieutenant Thompson, accustomed to evaluating tactical readiness, couldn't hide his professional assessment. Ma'am, with respect, this isn't a game. We're running live-fire scenarios with modified rules of engagement based on actual SWAT protocols. The other teams here have decades of combined combat experience. Without proper training, you could get seriously hurt, or worse, compromise mission objectives that could cost lives in real-world applications. The gathering crowd of tactical professionals began to take notice of the conversation. Word spread quickly through the facility that somehow a complete civilian had been allowed into the most advanced tactical simulation they offered. Some found it amusing, others concerning, but all agreed it was unprecedented in the facility's rigorous history. Emily finished her equipment check and looked up at the assembled tactical experts. I understand your concerns, she said calmly. But Colonel Hayes invited me specifically for this scenario. I assume he has his reasons. Jake Morrison stepped forward, his SEAL training evident in his command presence. Look, lady, I don't know what strings you pulled to get in here, but this isn't a tourist attraction. We're running scenarios that prepare people for life and death situations. If you can't carry your weight, you put everyone at risk. The tension in the equipment bay was palpable. Here was a woman with no apparent tactical background, basic equipment, and minimal preparation, somehow inserted into a competition designed for America's most elite tactical professionals. It defied every protocol, every safety standard, and every logical expectation the facility had established over years of rigorous operation. Emily simply nodded toward the arena entrance. I guess we'll find out soon enough. As the teams moved toward the briefing area for final mission parameters, the whispers followed Emily through the corridor. This was either going to be the most embarrassing safety incident in the facility's history, or Colonel Hayes had lost his legendary judgment about tactical readiness. Either way, everyone agreed it would be over quickly once the simulation began. Mission briefing room felt like a military command center. Digital displays showed detailed floor plans of the simulation. Arena, a 3-story urban warfare complex complete with multiple entry points, civilian hostage areas, and tactical choke points designed to challenge even the most experienced operators. Colonel Hayes stood at the front, his authoritative presence commanding immediate attention from the assembled teams. "Gentlemen and lady," Hayes began, his eyes briefly meeting Emily's. "Today's scenario is Operation Crimson Shield, a high-value target extraction with multiple hostile combatants and civilian protection requirements. The mission parameters are based on actual incidents faced by federal tactical units." The digital display illuminated a complex building layout. 3rd floor, northeast corner, 3 hostages being held by an unknown number of armed suspects. Intelligence suggests anywhere from 8 to 12 hostiles with tactical training and superior positioning. Rules of engagement are strict. Any civilian casualties result in immediate mission failure. Jake Morrison leaned forward, his competitive instincts fully engaged. This was exactly the type of scenario his SEAL team had trained for extensively. "Time constraint, sir? 30 minutes maximum. Beyond that time frame, we assume the hostage situation deteriorates beyond recovery." Hayes manipulated the display to show various approach routes. Standard tactical protocols apply: coordinated entry, systematic clearing, hostage identification, and extraction. Lieutenant Thompson studied the layout with professional intensity. His Phoenix SWAT unit had run similar scenarios dozens of times in real-world situations. Opposition force capabilities? Assume military-grade training and equipment. They know you're coming and have prepared accordingly. Hayes switched to a new display showing team assignments. "Red Team, you'll be our primary assault force. Team Alpha takes secondary entry points. Team Bravo handles perimeter security and overwatch. Team Charlie provides tactical support and civilian evacuation coordination." Then Hayes paused, highlighting a single blue indicator on the tactical display. "Blue Team will conduct independent operations as mission parameters develop." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The room erupted in confused murmurs. Independent operations meant solo entry, something that violated every tactical doctrine these professionals had learned throughout their military careers. No SWAT unit, no military force, no professional tactical team ever sent a single operator into a complex hostage scenario alone. Derek Patterson couldn't contain his disbelief. "Sir, with respect, single operator entry into a multi-story hostile environment with civilian protection requirements is tactically unsound. It's basically suicide." Carlos Mendez nodded agreement. "Colonel, we're talking about facing potentially 12 armed hostiles in prepared positions. Even with perfect intelligence and equipment superiority, one operator can't cover multiple angles, provide suppressive fire, and simultaneously protect hostages." Hayes remained impassive. "Blue Team parameters are pre-established and non-negotiable." "Jake." Morrison stood up, his leadership instincts demanding clarity. "Sir, I take full responsibility for team safety during this exercise. If we're running a civilian through a tactical scenario she's not prepared for, someone could get seriously injured. These paintball rounds hit at 300 feet per second. They can cause real damage. Without proper technique and positioning, the tension in the room escalated as other team leaders voiced similar concerns. These were professionals who'd spent careers perfecting tactical coordination and mutual support. The idea of sending an untrained civilian into a complex scenario alone went against every principle they'd learned about tactical operations and team safety. Emily remained quiet throughout the discussion, seemingly absorbed in studying the mission. Briefings on her tablet. Her calm demeanor in the face of growing professional concern only heightened the surreal nature of the situation. Colonel Hayes raised his hand for silence. Blue Team's operational parameters have been established based on specific assessment criteria. The scenario will proceed as briefed. Lieutenant Thompson tried a different approach. "Ma'am," he addressed Emily directly, "have you ever been in a high-stress tactical situation? When that door opens and 12 people are shooting at you simultaneously, natural human response is panic, tunnel vision, loss of fine motor control. Without extensive training, those responses can be overwhelming." Emily looked up from her tablet. "I understand the concerns." "Do you?" Jake pressed. "Because understanding and experiencing are completely different things. I've seen combat veterans freeze up in scenarios less complex than this. It's not about courage or intelligence, it's about conditioned tactical responses that take years to develop." Derek Patterson leaned forward, his tone shifting from mockery to genuine worry. "Look, there's no shame in sitting this one out. These scenarios are designed to push experienced tactical operators to their limits. There's nothing to prove here." Carlos Mendez pulled up training statistics on his phone. "Ma'am, last month we had a former Army Ranger wash out of this exact scenario. Guy had 3 combat deployments, advanced urban warfare training, and he still couldn't complete the mission parameters. The success rate for this particular simulation is about 12%, even among elite operators." The other teams began to gather around, drawn by the unprecedented situation. Word had spread throughout the facility that somehow a civilian was being allowed to attempt their most challenging tactical scenario as a solo operator. Maintenance staff, facility instructors, and off-duty personnel were finding reasons to observe the briefing. Master Sergeant Rodriguez, a Marine Raiders veteran now working as a facility instructor, approached Colonel Hayes privately. "Sir, I've never seen protocols like this. Are we running some kind of experimental training program? Because if this goes wrong, liability issues alone could shut down our military contracts." Hayes' response was barely audible. "Ms. Carter's participation has been approved at levels above facility authority." The mysterious nature of Emily's authorization only deepened the professional unease. These were people accustomed to a clear chain of command, detailed operational orders, and comprehensive risk assessment. The vague authorization and unusual scenario parameters felt more like a classified military experiment than a training exercise. Jake Morrison made one final attempt to inject tactical reality into the situation. "Ma'am, even if you have some kind of special authorization, please consider the practical aspects. You'll be facing 12 experienced operators in a complex environment designed to challenge team-based tactics. They'll have superior positioning, coordinated communications, and professional tactical training. Your equipment is basic rental gear without enhanced optics, communication systems, or tactical accessories. The mathematical probability of mission success approaches 0. Emily closed her tablet and looked around the room at the assembled tactical professionals. Their expressions ranged from genuine concern to professional frustration to barely concealed anticipation of watching an inevitable failure. "I appreciate everyone's concern about safety and mission success," she said quietly. "But Colonel Hayes, Seems confident in the mission parameters. Lieutenant Thompson shook his head. Confidence doesn't stop paintball rounds or change tactical mathematics. When those doors open, you'll be facing trained professionals who know exactly how to use terrain, positioning, and coordinated fire to eliminate threats. They've been preparing for teams of operators, not a single person with basic equipment. The facility's head of safety operations, Captain Janet Foster, approached with official documentation. "Colonel, I need signed waivers acknowledging the unusual risk parameters of this scenario. The legal department insists on comprehensive liability coverage given the non-standard operational structure." As Emily signed the required documentation, the assembled tactical professionals watched with a mixture of admiration for her courage and certainty that they were about to witness either the most spectacular failure in facility history or a serious safety incident that would require emergency medical response. The mission clock began its 30-minute countdown. Teams moved toward their designated staging areas, equipment checks complete, tactical communications tested and operational. The most elite tactical professionals in the Southwest prepared to demonstrate the coordinated precision that had made them legends in their respective fields. Emily picked up her basic paintball marker and walked alone toward the blue team staging area, seemingly unaware that she was about to face impossible odds with inadequate equipment against opponents who had dedicated their lives to tactical superiority. The simulation arena stood like a concrete fortress under harsh fluorescent lighting. 3 stories of interconnected rooms, stairwells, and corridors designed to replicate the most challenging urban environments faced by tactical teams worldwide. Hidden cameras throughout the structure would capture every movement, every decision, every tactical maneuver for post-mission analysis. Stowed in the observation deck above, facility staff gathered around multiple monitor screens, showing real-time feeds from throughout the complex. Colonel Hayes stood silently at the central console, his expression unreadable as teams moved into position. The betting pool among off-duty instructors heavily favored Red Team completing the mission in under 18 minutes. With most wagering, Emily would be eliminated within the first 3 minutes of engagement. Jake Morrison's voice crackled through the tactical communications network as Red Team approached the primary entry point. "Overwatch, Red Leader. Target building secured. Beginning systematic entry procedures. Estimate 12 minutes to the hostage location." Team Alpha confirmed secondary positioning. Team Bravo established perimeter security with precision military coordination. Team Charlie deployed civilian evacuation protocols. 4 teams of elite tactical operators moved with the coordinated efficiency that had made them legends in their respective fields. Emily stood alone at the blue team staging area, a single figure, against the concrete wall of the massive training complex. She checked her basic paintball marker one final time, ensured her minimal paint pod supply was secure, and adjusted her standard protective mask. No radio communications, no tactical support, no coordinated entry plan. "All teams, mission clock is active. 30 minutes to hostage extraction." Colonel Hayes' voice echoed through the facility communication system. The Red Team breached the first floor with textbook precision. Jake Morrison led from the front, his team moving in perfectly coordinated formations they'd practiced thousands of times in real combat situations. Room clearing proceeded methodically. Check corners, identify threats, secure areas, advance systematically toward the stairwell leading to upper floors. "First floor secured," Morrison reported. "No civilian casualties. Proceeding to second level. Opposition forces appear concentrated on upper floors as anticipated." Meanwhile, Emily had seemingly vanished. The observation deck operators frantically switched between camera feeds, trying to locate the blue team's single operator. She wasn't at any of the designated entry points. She wasn't following any of the established approach routes mapped out in the pre-mission briefing. Where the hell did she go? Muttered Captain Foster, scanning multiple screens simultaneously. Then someone spotted movement on an exterior camera. Emily was scaling the outside of the building, using maintenance ladder rungs and window ledges to climb toward the third floor. No ropes, no tactical climbing gear, just careful handholds and precise body positioning that would have impressed rock climbing instructors. "That's not a designated approach route," observed Master Sergeant Rodriguez. "Building exterior isn't part of the approved tactical entry options." Colonel Hayes remained silent, watching Emily's unconventional approach with intense focus. On the second floor, the red team encountered their first serious opposition. Paintball rounds exploded against walls and protective barriers as the defending force engaged with coordinated suppressive fire. The tactical operators responded with professional competence: cover, communicate, coordinate, advance systematically through hostile territory. Taking fire from multiple positions, Jake Morrison reported through his communications system. Estimate 6 hostile, well-positioned defensive arrangements. Requesting tactical support from Alpha Team. The firefight escalated as teams coordinated their assault. Professional tactical operators demonstrated the coordinated precision that made them elite, covering fields of fire, tactical movement, systematic advancement under pressure. It was textbook tactical excellence, exactly what observers expected from operators of their caliber. While the red team fought their way up through the second floor, Emily reached the third floor exterior windows. Instead of breaking glass or forcing entry, she moved methodically around the building perimeter, seemingly studying something invisible to the observation cameras. "What is she doing?" Captain Foster asked, watching Emily pause at each window without attempting entry. "Looks like reconnaissance," replied Rodriguez. "But there's no intelligence value in exterior observation of interior tactical situations." Then, Emily found what she was looking for: a maintenance access panel leading to the building's ventilation system. Within seconds, she had disappeared into the infrastructure that connected all 3 floors of the tactical complex. The red team finally secured the second floor after an 8-minute firefight that demonstrated why they were considered among the nation's elite tactical operators. Their advancement had been professional, coordinated, and tactically sound. But it had also been loud, predictable, and resource-intensive. "Second floor secured," Morrison reported, his team regrouping for the final assault. Proceeding to the third floor. Estimate 6 to 8 remaining hostiles concentrated around the hostage location. The mission clock showed 18 minutes elapsed. The red team was ahead of schedule but had expended significant ammunition and faced their most challenging tactical scenario, yet a defended hostage location, where any mistake could result in civilian casualties and mission failure. As the red team prepared for their final assault, a series of small explosions echoed through the third floor. Not the heavy impact of paintball markers, but the precise, controlled sounds of tactical equipment being neutralized from unexpected angles. "What was that?" Morrison demanded through his communication system. Before anyone could respond, the defending force's tactical communications went silent. One by one, the opposition operators were being eliminated, but not by the coordinated assault they prepared to face. Instead, they were being taken out by precise shots from impossible angles: ventilation grates, maintenance access points, interior positions that shouldn't have been accessible to attacking forces. The observation deck watched in stunned silence as Emily systematically dismantled the entire defensive position from within the building's infrastructure. She moved through spaces that didn't appear on tactical blueprints, engaged targets from positions that violated every principle of predictable tactical advancement, and eliminated opposition forces with an efficiency that defied conventional tactical understanding. "She's inside the walls," Captain Foster whispered, watching camera feeds that showed brief glimpses of movement in areas that weren't supposed to be accessible. Each elimination was precise, calculated, and executed before The defending operators could coordinate a response. Emily wasn't fighting the defensive position, she was unraveling it from the inside, using the building's own structure as a tactical advantage that no conventional team assault could have achieved within 6 minutes. The third floor fell silent. The red team reached the hostage location to find all 3 civilians secured, all opposition forces eliminated, and Emily Carter sitting calmly beside the hostages, her basic paintball marker resting across her knees. Red. Leader to command. Jake Morrison's voice carried obvious bewilderment. Third floor secured. All hostages safe. All opposition neutralized. Blue team ... somehow got here first. The mission clock showed 23 minutes elapsed. Emily had completed the tactical scenario with 7 minutes to spare, operating alone against a defended position that was designed to challenge coordinated team assaults by elite tactical professionals. She stood up, checked that the hostages were uninjured, and walked toward the extraction point without acknowledging the stunned red team operators, who had arrived expecting to execute a complex tactical assault only to find the mission already completed. In the observation deck, facility staff stared at monitor screens showing the impossible results. A single operator with basic equipment had outmaneuvered, outfought, and outperformed 4 teams of elite tactical professionals using methods that didn't appear in any tactical manual they'd ever studied. Colonel Hayes finally spoke, his voice carrying a mixture of satisfaction and something that might have been relief. Mission accomplished. All teams returned to the debriefing area. As Emily walked alone through the facility corridors toward the exit, the tactical professionals who had questioned her qualifications just hours earlier stood in stunned silence, trying to process what they had witnessed, the systematic destruction of their most challenging tactical scenario by someone who had made it look effortless. The debriefing room felt like a morgue. 12 elite tactical operators sat in stunned silence, staring at the digital scoreboard that displayed results that shouldn't have been mathematically possible. Mission duration, 23 minutes, 14 seconds. Blue team, 1 operator, 12 eliminations, 0 casualties, 3 hostages rescued. Red team through Charlie, 16 operators, 0 eliminations, 0 mission objectives completed. Jake Morrison stripped off his tactical gear with mechanical precision, his movements betraying the psychological impact of what he'd experienced. 2 decades of special operations training, 3 combat deployments, countless tactical scenarios. Nothing in his professional experience had prepared him to witness a single operator systematically dismantle a defensive position that his entire team couldn't penetrate. "Run the footage again," he demanded, his voice carrying the hollow tone of someone questioning fundamental assumptions about tactical reality. Captain Foster manipulated the digital playback system, cycling through camera feeds from throughout the facility. The technical staff had spent the last hour analyzing every angle, every movement, every tactical decision Emily had made during her impossible performance. What they discovered challenged everything they understood about modern tactical operations. "Here's where it starts getting impossible," Foster announced, highlighting the timestamp where Emily began her exterior building climb. "Standard tactical doctrine says exterior ascent without specialized climbing equipment is inadvisable due to exposure time and limited tactical options." She completed a 3-story climb in under 90 seconds while carrying a full combat load. "Derek." Patterson leaned forward, studying the footage with professional intensity. "Look at her route selection. She's not following any established climbing path. She's using structural elements that aren't even visible from ground-level conduit. Brackets, ventilation housing edges, window frame reinforcements. How did she identify load-bearing points that aren't marked on architectural blueprints?" The footage continued, showing Emily's transition from exterior climbing to interior infiltration through the maintenance access panel. Lieutenant Thompson, whose SWAT experience included extensive building assault training, shook his head in professional disbelief. That ventilation entry point isn't supposed to be accessible from the exterior approach. The architectural specs show it secured with industrial fasteners, requiring specialized tools. She opened it bare-handed in under 15 seconds. Master Sergeant Rodriguez, the facility's chief tactical instructor, had been studying the footage. With increasing concern, "Gentlemen, we're not dealing with luck or improvisation. Watch her movement pattern through the infrastructure spaces. She knew exactly where she was going. Those access routes aren't random. They're strategically selected to provide optimal firing positions against the defensive layout." The technical analysis grew more disturbing as they examined Emily's systematic elimination of the opposition force. Each engagement showed tactical sophistication that exceeded conventional training parameters. She had identified and exploited weaknesses in the defensive position that professional tactical planners had assumed were impossible to detect or access. Carlos Mendez pulled up the opposition force's tactical communications logs, recorded during the simulation for post-mission analysis. "Listen to this," he said, playing the audio from the final 6 minutes of the scenario. The recordings revealed growing panic and confusion among the defending operators as they realized they were being systematically eliminated by an opponent who seemed to be attacking from impossible positions. Their tactical communications, initially professional and coordinated, deteriorated into urgent requests for backup and desperate attempts to identify the source of precision fire that was dismantling their defensive perimeter. Sector 3 is compromised, unknown shooter in the infrastructure, negative visual on hostile position, taking fire from above, request immediate tactical support, defensive perimeter is collapsing. The communications ended abruptly as the final defender was eliminated, leaving only silence where moments before there had been professional tactical coordination. Dr. Michelle Barnes, the facility's tactical psychology consultant, had been analyzing Emily's performance from a behavioral perspective. Her findings added another layer of impossibility to an already incomprehensible situation. Her stress indicators during the entire operation remained at baseline levels. Dr. Barnes reported, reviewing biometric data collected through the facility's advanced monitoring systems. Heart rate, breathing pattern, movement tempo, everything suggests she was operating in a completely relaxed state despite engaging in high-intensity tactical combat against multiple opponents. The implications were staggering. Professional tactical operators trained extensively to manage combat stress, but even the most experienced professionals showed elevated stress responses during complex tactical scenarios. Emily's biometric data suggested she had been as physiologically calm during the firefight as someone reading a book in a library. Colonel Hayes finally spoke, his voice cutting through the bewildered analysis. "Technical assessment, Captain Foster. What did our systems record that we can verify objectively?" Foster pulled up comprehensive technical data from the facility's advanced monitoring network. "Sir, 12 precision eliminations. Average engagement time of 18 seconds per target. Shot placement analysis shows 92% center mass. Accuracy using standard rental equipment from positions that shouldn't have provided adequate sight lines for accurate fire." The shot placement data was particularly troubling. Emily's elimination pattern showed she had identified and engaged each defender with surgical precision, despite operating from concealed positions within the building's infrastructure that limited visibility and created challenging firing angles. Lieutenant Thompson studied tactical movement analysis with growing professional concern. She cleared the entire third floor without following any established tactical protocol. No systematic room clearing, no coordinated advancement, no communication with support elements. She operated like she had perfect intelligence about enemy positions and movement patterns. Because she did, Derek Patterson realized, his voice carrying new understanding. "Look at the timing. She spent 4 minutes conducting exterior reconnaissance before entry. She wasn't just climbing the building. She was gathering intelligence about the defensive layout using observation techniques we don't recognize. The facility's technical staff had discovered another impossibility embedded in Emily's performance. The advanced monitoring systems designed to track tactical operations had recorded her movement through spaces that weren't supposed to be accessible to human infiltration. The ventilation system she used for tactical movement has internal dimensions that shouldn't accommodate human passage, reported Chief Engineer Tom Bradley. We're talking about 18-inch clearances with multiple 90-degree turns. Physical navigation through those spaces should be impossible for someone carrying combat equipment. Yet the footage clearly showed Emily moving through the building's infrastructure with fluid precision, emerging at tactical firing positions that provided optimal angles against defensive positions, while remaining invisible to conventional tactical. Observation. Jake Morrison stood up abruptly, his professional composure finally cracking. This isn't training analysis, this is a complete breakdown of tactical reality. Everything we know about urban warfare, everything we've learned about tactical operations, everything we've trained for throughout our careers, just got systematically demolished by one person with basic equipment. The tactical operators began comparing Emily's performance to their most challenging professional experiences. Combat veterans who had faced complex tactical scenarios in Iraq and Afghanistan found themselves questioning whether they had ever witnessed tactical proficiency at the level Emily had demonstrated. I've seen Delta Force operators struggle with scenarios less complex than this, Carlos Mendez admitted. I've watched Navy SEAL teams require multiple attempts to complete similar hostage extraction missions. What she accomplished in 23 minutes shouldn't be achievable by a single operator, using any conventional tactical approach. The professional implications were staggering. If Emily's techniques could be replicated, they would revolutionize tactical operations throughout military and law enforcement communities. If they couldn't be replicated, then they had witnessed something that existed outside the normal parameters of human tactical capability. Dr. Barnes reviewed her psychological assessment data with growing concern. Gentlemen, we need to consider the possibility that we've witnessed tactical proficiency that exceeds conventional training parameters. The physiological and behavioral indicators suggest someone operating with capabilities that transcend standard tactical education. As the technical analysis continued, one question dominated every professional mind in the debriefing room. Who was Emily Carter? And where had she learned tactical techniques that made elite special operations training look primitive by comparison? That evening, Jake Morrison sat in his Phoenix apartment, unable to shake what he'd witnessed. The tactical impossibility of Emily's performance haunted him with the persistence of an unsolved equation. 20 years of special operations experience had taught him that extraordinary tactical capability didn't emerge from nowhere. It was forged through specialized training that left digital footprints, institutional records, and professional networks that could be traced. He opened his laptop and began methodically searching military databases, law enforcement records, and competitive tactical shooting registries. Emily Carter should exist somewhere in the system if she possessed the capabilities they'd witnessed. Elite tactical training created paper trails through security clearances, specialized schools, and professional certifications that were virtually impossible to erase completely. The initial searches returned frustratingly generic results. Multiple Emily Carters appeared in public records, but none with military service records, law enforcement backgrounds, or tactical training certifications. It was as if the woman who had systematically dismantled their most challenging scenario had materialized from civilian obscurity without any institutional development of her extraordinary capabilities. Morrison expanded his search parameters, accessing federal databases through his security clearance connections. Military intelligence records, FBI tactical training programs, CIA operational archives, nothing. Emily Carter existed in public records as a completely ordinary citizen with no apparent connection to any institution capable of producing her level of tactical sophistication. The absence of institutional records was itself suspicious. In Morrison's experience, people didn't develop tactical capabilities in isolation. Elite performance required systematic training, sophisticated resources, and access to realistic scenarios that only government or military institutions could provide. Emily's tactical proficiency suggested training that exceeded conventional special operations programs, yet she apparently existed outside any official system that could have produced such capabilities. Meanwhile, across town, Lieutenant Thompson had initiated his own investigation through law enforcement channels. His Phoenix Police Department network provided access to different databases and professional connections that might reveal Emily's background. The results were equally puzzling. No criminal record, no law enforcement employment history, no federal agency affiliation, Thompson reported during a secure phone call with Morrison. But here's the strange part: her public records are almost too clean. Basic employment history, residential addresses, financial records, everything looks completely normal, but there are gaps that don't make sense. The gaps Thompson had identified were subtle but significant. Employment records showed Emily working as a research librarian at Arizona State University for the past 8 years. But her educational background showed a master's degree in information science from a small college in Montana that had closed its doors 5 years ago. Academic records that couldn't be verified through institutional sources that no longer existed. Morrison decided to take a more direct approach. He drove to the SU library where Emily supposedly worked, hoping to gather intelligence about her daily life that might explain her tactical capabilities. What he discovered deepened the mystery rather than resolving it. "Emily, she's one of our best researchers," explained Dr. Patricia Kim, the head librarian. "Brilliant with information systems, incredibly thorough with complex research projects. But she's also unusual." "Unusual how?" Morrison pressed. "She has this way of finding information that other people can't locate. Government documents, military records, classified research papers that somehow become accessible through her search techniques. We've never questioned her methods because her results are consistently excellent, but sometimes I wonder how she accesses information that should require security clearances." Dr. Kim's description suggested Emily possessed research capabilities that extended beyond normal academic training. The ability to locate classified government information through civilian channels indicated sophisticated understanding of information security systems that few people outside intelligence agencies possessed. Morrison's investigation took a breakthrough turn when he contacted Master Chief Robert Sullivan, a retired Navy SEAL who now worked as a military contractor specializing in unconventional warfare training. Sullivan had extensive connections throughout the special operations community and access to unofficial networks that tracked exceptional tactical talent. "Jake, you're asking about someone who shouldn't exist," Sullivan said during their encrypted phone conversation. "But the tactical techniques you're describing, they remind me of something from the classified archives. Project Phantom Cell, early 2000s. Deep black program that trained individuals for solo infiltration operations in urban environments. Project Phantom Cell had been a highly classified military research program designed to develop tactical operators capable of functioning independently in complex urban scenarios. Unlike conventional special operations training that emphasized team coordination, Phantom Cell focused on creating individuals who could accomplish tactical objectives without support, communication, or backup. The program was discontinued around 2006, Sullivan continued. Official reasons were budgetary, but rumors suggested they achieved results that made people uncomfortable. Operators who could accomplish missions that conventional teams couldn't complete. using techniques that weren't teachable through normal training methods. Sullivan's connections led Morrison to Dr. Benjamin Hayes, Colonel Hayes, brother and a former military psychologist who had consulted on unconventional warfare programs. During the early 2000s, Dr. Hayes agreed to meet Morrison at a secure location, bringing documents that would finally explain Emily's impossible capabilities. Phantom Cell wasn't just about tactical training, Dr. Hayes revealed, spreading classified files across a conference table. It was about identifying individuals with specific cognitive and physical characteristics that made them naturally suited for unconventional warfare operations. We called them natural infiltrators, people whose neurological architecture allowed them to process spatial information, threat assessment, and tactical planning at superhuman levels. The program had identified 12 candidates nationwide who possessed the rare combination of spatial intelligence, stress resistance, and tactical intuition necessary for solo urban warfare operations. Each candidate underwent intensive training that combined conventional tactical skills with advanced psychological conditioning designed to maximize their natural capabilities. Candidate 7 was our most successful subject, Dr. Hayes continued, pointing to a heavily redacted file. Emily Carson, age 22 at program entry, demonstrated tactical proficiency that exceeded our most optimistic projections, could accomplish solo infiltration missions that challenged entire tactical teams. Morrison studied the partially visible photograph attached to the file. Even with deliberate image distortion, the facial features were recognizably Emily Carter, 20 years younger but unmistakably the same person who had systematically destroyed their tactical scenario. What happened to the program? Morrison asked. Candidate 7 happened, Dr. Hayes replied grimly. She completed the training successfully, achieved operational certification, then requested immediate discharge from military service. Stated that her enhanced capabilities should be used to protect civilians, not eliminate enemies. Wanted to use her skills for defensive rather than offensive purposes. The file revealed that Emily had voluntarily walked away from a program that invested millions of dollars in developing her extraordinary tactical capabilities. She had mastered techniques that made conventional special operations training obsolete, then chose to disappear into civilian life rather than deploy those skills for military objectives. The program was terminated after her departure, Dr. Hayes continued. She represented proof that human tactical capability could be enhanced beyond normal parameters, but she also demonstrated that enhanced capabilities didn't guarantee loyalty to institutional objectives. The military decided the risks outweighed the benefits. Morrison realized he was looking at documents that explained everything about Emily's impossible performance while simultaneously revealing why she had remained invisible to conventional military and law enforcement networks. She had been trained by the most advanced tactical program in American military history, then had chosen to use those capabilities to protect rather than eliminate. Where has she been for the past 20 years? Morrison asked. Dr. Hayes pointed to the final entry in Emily's file. Candidate 7's post-service activities are monitored periodically for national security purposes. She's maintained her tactical proficiency through personal training while working in civilian professions that utilize her enhanced information processing capabilities. She surfaces occasionally when situations require intervention that conventional authorities can't provide. The revelation that Emily was still monitored by intelligence agencies, explained Colonel Hayes, mysterious authorization, and the unusual mission parameters. Her participation in the tactical scenario hadn't been random, it had been a deliberate demonstration requested by agencies that needed to verify her continued operational readiness. Morrison closed the classified files, finally understanding what he had witnessed. Emily Carter wasn't just an exceptional tactical operator. She was a living example of human potential, enhanced through programs that pushed the boundaries of what government agencies considered ethically acceptable. Her impossible performance represented capabilities that existed at the intersection of advanced training and natural talent that few humans possessed. 3 months after the impossible tactical demonstration, the Tactical Edge Training Complex looked remarkably different. The walls of the main briefing room now displayed a new addition alongside decades of military unit patches and tactical achievement plaques, a simple framed photograph showing the final scoreboard from Operation Crimson Shield. No nameplate, no explanatory caption, just the stark digital display that had redefined everyone's understanding of human tactical capability. Jake Morrison stood before a classroom of incoming SEAL candidates at the Naval Special Warfare Training Facility in Coronado, California. His lecture topic: Cognitive Limitations in Tactical Assessment. The PowerPoint presentation displayed video footage from Emily's performance, each frame annotated with tactical analysis that challenged conventional special operations doctrine. "Gentlemen, what you're about to see will fundamentally alter your assumptions about tactical possibility," Morrison began, his tone carrying the weight of personal transformation. 6 months ago, I believed my 20 years of special operations experience had prepared me to evaluate tactical capability accurately. I was wrong. The footage played in slow motion, showing Emily's systematic dismantling of the defensive position that had been designed to challenge entire tactical teams. Morrison paused at key moments, highlighting tactical decisions that violated established doctrine yet achieved superior results. "Notice the absence of conventional tactical protocol," he continued. "No systematic room clearing, no coordinated team movement, no established fields of fire. Yet she accomplished mission objectives that defeat 90% of conventional tactical approaches. This forces us to question whether our training methods are optimized for tactical effectiveness or institutional conformity." The Navy SEAL candidates watched in stunned silence as Morrison deconstructed their fundamental assumptions about tactical operations. The implications extended far beyond individual technique. They suggested that conventional military training might be inadvertently limiting tactical potential by enforcing conformity to established doctrine. Meanwhile, at the FBI Academy in Quantico, Dr. Michelle Barnes had incorporated Emily's performance into advanced tactical psychology curricula. Her research team had spent months analyzing the cognitive and physiological data collected during the demonstration, leading to breakthrough discoveries about human performance under extreme stress. Traditional tactical training assumes stress degrades performance, Dr. Barnes explained to a gathering of federal law enforcement instructors. But our subject demonstrated physiological calm during high-intensity tactical engagement that suggests stress response can be completely eliminated through appropriate conditioning. This challenges fundamental assumptions about human psychological limitations in combat situations. The FBI had quietly initiated research programs designed to identify and develop natural infiltrators similar to Emily's demonstrated capabilities. Early results suggested that while Emily's level of tactical intuition was extraordinarily rare, elements of her unconventional approach could be taught to conventional operators willing to abandon traditional tactical doctrine. Lieutenant Thompson had returned to Phoenix Police Department with revolutionary changes to SWAT training protocols. His unit began incorporating infrastructure exploitation techniques inspired by Emily's use of building systems for tactical advantage. The results exceeded expectations. SWAT operations that previously required extensive resources and time were being completed with greater efficiency and reduced risk to officers and civilians. "We've been thinking about buildings as obstacles to overcome rather than resources to exploit," Thompson explained during a regional law enforcement conference. "One person showed us that conventional tactical approaches ignore 50% of available tactical options. We're now training our officers to see urban environments as three-dimensional tactical networks rather than two-dimensional floor plans." The Phoenix Police Department's innovative training approaches attracted attention from federal agencies and international law enforcement organizations. Thompson found himself consulting for tactical units throughout North America, teaching modified versions of techniques derived from Emily's demonstration. At Arizona State University, Dr. Patricia Kim had noticed subtle changes in the library's research capabilities since Emily's tactical demonstration had gained legendary status among certain professional communities. Government researchers, military analysts, and intelligence professionals had begun specifically requesting Emily's assistance with complex information retrieval projects that conventional research methods couldn't resolve. She's become our unofficial specialist for impossible research requests, Dr. Kim observed during a meeting with university administration. Defense contractors, federal agencies, academic institutions, they all seem to know that Emily can locate information that doesn't officially exist. I don't ask questions about her methods, but her success rate approaches 100%. Emily's information research capabilities had apparently been enhanced by the same cognitive training that produced her tactical expertise. Her ability to process complex information systems and identify hidden connections between disparate data sources made her invaluable to professionals working with classified or sensitive information. The tactical training industry itself had begun evolving. In response to Emily's demonstration, facilities throughout the country started developing unconventional warfare programs that emphasized individual initiative over team coordination, spatial intelligence over memorized techniques, and adaptive thinking over doctrinal adherence. Master Sergeant Rodriguez, now heading the Advanced Tactical Training Institute in Colorado, had redesigned his entire curriculum around principles derived from analyzing Emily's performance. His facility attracted students from elite military units, federal law enforcement agencies, and private security firms seeking to develop capabilities that transcended conventional tactical training. We're teaching students to think like infiltrators rather than assault teams, Rodriguez explained to prospective students. The goal isn't to memorize tactical procedures, it's to develop cognitive flexibility that allows adaptation to any tactical scenario. Emily Carter proved that human tactical potential far exceeds what we've been teaching. The influence extended to academic institutions studying human performance and cognitive enhancement. Universities with military psychology programs began researching methods for identifying and developing exceptional spatial intelligence, stress resistance, and tactical intuition in civilian populations. Dr. Benjamin Hayes, the former military psychologist who had helped reveal Emily's background, found himself consulting for research programs, attempting to understand and replicate the cognitive enhancement techniques that had produced her extraordinary capabilities. The Phantom Cell program achieved results that we're still trying to understand, Dr. Hayes admitted during a classified briefing for senior military officials. Emily represents proof that human tactical capability can be enhanced far beyond current parameters, but the training methods required challenge ethical boundaries that make institutional replication problematic. 6 months after Operation Crimson Shield, Colonel Hayes received a handwritten note delivered to his office without official channels or identifying information. The message was brief: training protocols available for defensive applications only. Interested parties should understand that enhanced capabilities require ethical commitment to protection rather than elimination. The note was unsigned, but Hayes recognized Emily's careful handwriting. She was apparently willing to share elements of her extraordinary training with selected individuals, but only under conditions that ensured her enhanced capabilities would be used to protect rather than harm. Stories about the Phantom operator began circulating through professional tactical communities, growing into legendary status among people who understood the technical impossibility of what Emily had accomplished. Tactical instructors used her demonstration as an example of human potential that challenged assumptions about capability limitations. Training facilities throughout the country began displaying photographs of Operation Crimson Shield's final scoreboard, not as a competitive achievement, but as inspiration for students to question conventional approaches and seek capabilities that transcended institutional limitations. Emily herself had returned to her quiet life as a research librarian, declining interview requests, consulting opportunities, and official recognition for her tactical demonstration. When approached by curious professionals, she simply redirected conversations toward civilian applications of enhanced spatial intelligence and information processing capabilities. Her legacy lived, not in military records or tactical manuals, but in transformed approaches to human potential development that recognized exceptional capability, could emerge from unexpected sources, and be applied in ways that served protection rather than destruction. The woman who had systematically redefined tactical possibility with a basic paintball marker had chosen to use her extraordinary capabilities to help others discover information, solve problems, and understand that human potential far exceeded conventional assumptions, proving that the most significant demonstrations of exceptional ability often came from people who chose service over recognition, protection over aggression, and quiet competence over public acclaim. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.